The 5 alien commanders bragged about their warships. Then they saw humanity's fleet. The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the neutral zone between 5 different galactic territories. Its rotating rings housed diplomatic quarters, trading posts, and the most exclusive military cantina in known space. Today, the cantina buzzed with tension and alcohol-fueled boasting. Commander Zektar of the Vorthon Empire slammed his clawed fist on the polished metal table, causing the amber liquid in his glass to slosh dangerously. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a grin among his species. The scales along his neck flared bright orange, a clear sign of aggression and pride. "You insects dare compare your pathetic vessels to the might of the Crimson Devastator?" His voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded respect across 1,000 star systems. "My flagship alone carries enough firepower to crack a moon in half. 50,000 crew members, each trained from birth for war." Across from him, Admiral Threngza of the crystalline hegemony let out a sound like breaking glass, mixed with wind chimes. Her transparent gem-like body reflected the cantina's dim lighting in prismatic rainbows. When she moved, tiny fractures of light danced across her surface. Amusing, warm blood. Her voice resonated with harmonic frequencies that made nearby glasses vibrate. "The eternal shard makes your metal scrap look like a child's toy. Our biocrystalline technology doesn't just destroy planets, it converts their matter into pure energy. We've harvested the cores of dead stars to power our weapons." Fleet Marshal Corvin of the Metallic Syndicate leaned back in his chair, the servos in his cybernetic body whirring softly. Half his face was original flesh, while the other half gleamed with polished chrome and pulsing data streams. His organic eye studied his companions with calculated interest. "Both primitive approaches," he stated with mechanical precision. "The Iron Collective operates on principles you barely comprehend. Our ships don't just fight. They adapt, learn, evolve during combat. Every battle makes us stronger. My dreadnought Nova Forge has survived encounters with stellar phenomena that would vaporize your vessels instantly." Grand Admiral Sekth of the Hive Confederation clicked her mandibles in what sounded like laughter. Her insectoid features were sharp and predatory, with multifaceted eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Smaller creatures, her offspring and servants, skittered across her carapace-like armor. "You speak of single ships as if they matter," she hissed, her voice layered with harmonics from her swarm speakers. "The swarm mother doesn't rely on individual strength. 10 million warrior ships move as one mind, one purpose. When we descend upon a system, the very space around our enemies turns black with our numbers." Finally, Lord Commander Vrex of the Psychic Dominion spoke without moving his lips. His words appeared directly in their minds, cold and invasive like ice water flowing through their thoughts. His pale, elongated skull pulsed with veins of purple energy, and his eyes held no pupils, just swirling galaxies of telepathic power. "Your material obsessions blind you to true power," his mental voice whispered. "The mind's eye transcends physical limitations. Why destroy matter when you can simply convince it to cease existing? My crews don't operate weapons. They become weapons. Reality bends to our will." The 5 commanders had been drinking for hours, each trying to outdo the others with increasingly outrageous claims about their military might. Empty bottles and data tablets displaying fleet specifications covered their table. Holographic projections of their flagship vessels rotated slowly above the surface, each one an impressive monument to their civilization's approach to warfare. They represented the 5 most powerful military forces in the known galaxy. For centuries, these empires had maintained an uneasy balance of power, each capable of devastating the others but none willing to risk the mutual destruction that would follow. Their fleets patrolled the borders between their territories, occasionally clashing in small skirmishes that served more as testing grounds than actual warfare. The real question, Zektar continued, his orange scales now pulsing rhythmically, is which of our fleets would emerge victorious if we ever decided to settle this properly. Threnx's crystalline form chimed with harmonic laughter. Perhaps we should ask the humans what they think. The cantina fell silent. Even the background chatter from other tables seemed to pause. The name humans hung in the air like an awkward joke that nobody quite understood. Corvin's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused. Humans! Those primitive bipeds from the outer rim. What does Earth's tiny defense force matter in a discussion between real military powers? The other commanders erupted in laughter. Sekth's mandibles clicked rapidly while her swarm creatures chittered in unison. Vrex's mental chuckle felt like ice crystals forming in their brains. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their first contact with galactic civilization had been awkward and fumbling. Most spacefaring species regarded them as an amusing curiosity, a young race that would either learn their place in the galactic order or destroy themselves trying to punch above their weight class. I heard they're still using chemical rockets for some applications, Sekth hissed through her laughter. Their largest ship is barely the size of one of my fighter squadrons. Zektar's scales rippled with amusement. They probably think a plasma cannon is advanced technology. I remember when my scouts first encountered their warships. Crude metal tubes with primitive fusion drives. Their weapons couldn't even penetrate basic energy shielding. Their minds are equally primitive, Vrex added telepathically. I've attempted to scan human thoughts before, so chaotic and unfocused. They can't even maintain proper mental discipline. Threnx's form brightened as she accessed data from her ship's memory banks. According to our intelligence, Earth's entire fleet consists of maybe 30 vessels. Most are converted exploration ships. They're still figuring out how artificial gravity works. The laughter continued, but it was interrupted by a new voice. Clear, confident, and speaking perfect galactic standard with only the slightest accent that marked it as human. Mind if we join the conversation? All 5 alien commanders turned to see 3 figures approaching their table. They wore simple blue uniforms with minimal decoration, a stark contrast to the elaborate military regalia displayed by the galactic powers. The center figure, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and calm eyes, carried herself with quiet authority. I'm Admiral Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Defense Force, she said with a polite smile. These are Commanders Rodriguez and Nakamura. We couldn't help but overhear your discussion about fleet capabilities. Zektar's scales flushed bright orange again, this time with embarrassment and anger at being interrupted. This is a private military discussion, human. Your defense force hardly qualifies for such company. Admiral Chen's smile never wavered. Of course, we're still quite new to galactic politics, but we're always eager to learn from more experienced civilizations. Commander Rodriguez, a lean man with sharp eyes, glanced at the holographic ship displays above their table. Impressive vessels. We've heard stories about your fleet actions throughout the galaxy. The alien commanders exchanged glances. The humans' politeness seemed genuine, but there was something unsettling about their calm confidence. These weren't the awkward, overwhelmed representatives they'd encountered in previous diplomatic meetings. Corvin's cybernetic systems ran quick scans of the 3 humans, searching for hidden weapons or augmentations. His readings came back negative. They appeared completely unmodified and unarmed. What exactly does Earth's Defense Force hope to contribute to a discussion of real military power? Admiral Chen gestured to an empty chair. May we sit? I think you might find our perspective interesting. Against their better judgment, the 5 commanders found themselves nodding. Perhaps it would be amusing to hear what these primitive beings thought constituted naval warfare. As the humans took their seats, Commander Nakamura activated a small device that projected a holographic display of their own. Unlike the elaborate warship schematics the aliens had been sharing, this showed a simple star chart focusing on Earth's local region of space. "You're right that we're still learning," Admiral Chen admitted. 50 years isn't very long in galactic terms, but we've been busy. The star chart began to update, showing shipping lanes and patrol routes. Small dots indicated the positions of human vessels throughout their territory. Vrex probed gently at the edges of their minds, expecting to find the usual human mental chaos. Instead, he encountered something unexpected: organized thought patterns, disciplined mental barriers, and underneath it all, a strange sense of anticipation that made him withdraw quickly. "Busy doing what?" Threnxa asked, her curiosity genuinely piqued despite herself. "Exploring? Trading?" Admiral Chen's smile grew slightly wider. "Learning, adapting, building." Commander Rodriguez leaned forward. "We've had the advantage of studying all your civilizations before making contact. Your histories, your technologies, your military doctrines. We've learned quite a lot." The aliens shifted uncomfortably. There was something in the human's tone that suggested more than simple academic interest. "Building what exactly?" Sekth demanded, her swarm creatures becoming agitated. Commander Nakamura touched the holographic display, and the star chart zoomed out, further and further. The scale kept expanding until they could see not just Earth's immediate region, but a significant portion of the galactic rim. And throughout that space, tiny dots marked human presence, not just ships, installations, outposts, and what appeared to be significant infrastructure development. "We've been busy," Admiral Chen repeated quietly. Zektar's scales had gone from orange to a deep, alarmed purple. "That's impossible. Our scouts would have detected such expansion." "Would they?" Commander Rodriguez asked mildly. "We learned stealth technology from studying Dominion mental manipulation techniques. We learned adaptive systems from syndicate broadcasts. We studied crystalline energy conversion from hegemony trade samples. We even figured out how to implement limited swarm coordination from observing Confederation fleet movements." The 5 alien commanders stared at the display in growing unease. The human expansion shown was methodical, careful, and far more extensive than any of their intelligence services had reported. Corvin's cybernetic systems began running probability calculations at maximum speed. "Even if this data is accurate, which I doubt, you still lack the industrial capacity for true military production." Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. "You're absolutely right. We don't have the massive forge worlds or bioforming facilities or crystal growth chambers that your civilizations have perfected over millennia." The aliens relaxed slightly. At least the humans understood their limitations. "So we had to get creative," she continued. Commander Nakamura manipulated the display again. This time, it showed detailed specifications, not of ships, but of manufacturing processes, automated systems, self-replicating construction protocols. "We may not have your industrial base," Admiral Chen said calmly, "but we've gotten very good at making things that make other things." The implications hung in the air like an approaching storm. "This is impossible," Rex projected, though his mental voice carried less certainty than before. "Our intelligence networks would have detected such activities." "Your intelligence networks were looking for threats that matched your own paradigms," Commander Rodriguez explained. "Large fleets, obvious military buildups, conventional expansion patterns. You weren't looking for something completely different." Admiral Chen stood up slowly. "Thank you for the conversation, gentlemen. It's been educational." The 3 humans began to leave, but Admiral Chen paused and looked back. "Oh, and commanders, You might want to check with your intelligence services when you get back to your ships. I have a feeling they've received some interesting updates in the last few hours." As the humans walked away, the 5 alien commanders sat in stunned silence, staring at the holographic display that continued to rotate above their table. The data it showed challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Zektar was the first to activate his communicator, demanding an immediate report from his ship's intelligence division. The others quickly followed suit, their earlier boasting forgotten in the face of a growing realization that they might have seriously underestimated the quiet species from the galactic rim. Outside the cantina windows, space looked the same as it always had. But somehow, the 5 commanders couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The emergency reports came in waves, each more disturbing than the last. Commander Zektar's orange scales had shifted to a sickly yellow as he read the intelligence updates flooding his personal communicator. Around the table, the other 4 alien commanders were experiencing similar revelations as their ships transmitted the latest reconnaissance data. "This has to be wrong," Zektar muttered, his clawed fingers trembling as he scrolled through deployment reports. "My scouts are reporting human installations in 17 systems that were supposedly empty last month." Admiral Threnxa's crystalline body had dimmed to an almost colorless transparency, her usual prismatic light show reduced to occasional nervous flickers. "The hegemony's deep space monitoring stations are detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. The humans aren't just building, they're building with technologies that shouldn't exist." Fleet Marshal Corvin's cybernetic eye was spinning rapidly as it processed incoming data streams. Warning indicators flashed across his augmented vision display. "The Iron Collective's automated probe network has gone dark in 3 sectors simultaneously. That's never happened before." The mechanical precision in his voice carried an undertone of something that might have been fear if machines could feel such emotions. His organic hand unconsciously clenched while his cybernetic fingers tapped out calculations on the table's surface. Grand Admiral Sekth's swarm creatures had gone completely silent, pressed flat against her carapace in a defensive posture. Her multifaceted eyes darted between her companions as she processed reports from thousands of her children scattered across space. "The Confederation's forward hives are detecting massive gravitational anomalies," she clicked urgently. "Whatever the humans are building, it's affecting space-time itself. My scouts report seeing structures that appear larger on the inside than the outside." Lord Commander Vrex sat motionless, his pale skull pulsing with purple energy as he reached out through the psychic network that connected all Dominion ships. When he finally spoke, his mental voice carried an edge of panic. "The mind's eye cannot penetrate their new installations. They've developed some form of psychic shielding that actually strengthens when I probe it. That should be impossible." The 5 commanders stared at each other across the table, their earlier boasting now seeming foolish and naive. Each represented civilizations that had dominated space for thousands of years, yet somehow a species that had barely learned to travel between stars was deploying technologies that challenged everything they understood about warfare. Zektar's communicator chimed with another urgent message. This time, the voice of his intelligence chief carried clear alarm. "Commander, we've detected what appears to be a human fleet massing at the edge of the Vorthon border. But, sir, the energy readings don't match any known human vessel classifications." "How many ships?" Zektar demanded. "That's the problem, sir. We can't tell if it's 1 ship or 1,000. The sensor ghosts are unlike anything we've encountered." Similar reports were coming in from all 5 civilizations. Human activity was spiking across the galaxy, but none of their advanced sensor networks could provide clear information about what humanity was actually deploying. Threnxa accessed the hegemony's vast crystalline data matrix, searching for any technological precedent for what they were observing. "Our scientists are analyzing the energy signatures. They're reporting impossible readings. fusion reactors that produce antimatter byproducts, crystal matrices that generate more power than they consume, metal that rebuilds itself stronger after taking damage. They're using our own technologies, Corvin realized, his cybernetic processors finally making the connection, but not as we intended. They've combined principles from all our civilizations in ways that we never considered. The mechanical officer activated his ship's quantum communication link, connecting directly with the Syndicate's central processing core. The conversation lasted only nanoseconds in machine time, but when he disconnected, his organic eye showed genuine concern. The collective's analysis confirms it. Human installations are demonstrating adaptive metallurgy, crystalline energy storage, biomechanical hybrid systems, psychic dampening fields, and swarm coordination protocols. They've reverse-engineered and improved upon technologies it took us millennia to develop. Seth's mandibles clicked in rapid, agitated patterns. Impossible! The Confederation's bioswarm coordination requires genetic integration that takes generations to achieve. Humans can't possibly have mastered such techniques in mere decades. Unless they found a way to accelerate the process, Vrex projected grimly. What if they've been using captured samples of our technologies to create hybrid systems we never imagined? The implications were staggering. Each alien civilization had developed their military technologies in isolation, perfecting single approaches over vast spans of time. The Vorthon Empire specialized in brute force and overwhelming firepower. The crystalline hegemony had mastered energy manipulation and matter conversion. The Metallic Syndicate created self-improving adaptive systems. The Hive Confederation achieved perfect coordination through biological networking. The Psychic Dominion wielded reality-altering mental powers. But humanity had observed them all, studied them, learned from them. Admiral Chen's words echoed in their minds. We've been learning, adapting, building. Zektar's scale color shifted again, this time to deep red. We need to contact our home fleets immediately. If the humans have truly developed hybrid technologies combining all our approaches, they would represent a threat unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen, Threnxa finished, her harmonics creating discordant resonances that made nearby objects vibrate uncomfortably. The 5 commanders began issuing orders to their respective fleets. Emergency protocols activated across 5 different civilizations as military forces that had remained largely static for centuries suddenly found themselves facing an unknown and potentially superior enemy. But their communications were interrupted by a new development. The Cantina's main viewing port, which normally showed the peaceful starfield around Nexus Prime, suddenly blazed with new lights. Ships were emerging from hyperspace, not the familiar vessels of the 5 major powers, but something different, something that hurt to look at directly. The first vessel appeared normal enough, a sleek, silver-hulled craft about the size of a heavy cruiser. But as more ships materialized, the assembled commanders began to understand what they were seeing. Each human ship was different, yet part of a unified whole. Some gleamed with crystalline surfaces that bent light in impossible ways. Others displayed the flowing, organic curves of biomechanical fusion. A few were clearly mechanical, but their metal surfaces seemed to shift and adapt even as they watched. The largest vessel defied easy classification. It appeared to be partially phased out of normal space-time, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Energy patterns flowed across its hull in configurations that made their instruments scream warnings about gravitational anomalies and space-time distortions. "How many ships is that?" Seth whispered. Corvin's augmented vision counted obsessively. But the numbers kept changing as more vessels emerged from what appeared to be multiple forms of faster-than-light travel simultaneously. 40, 60, the count keeps changing. Some of these ships are registering as being in multiple locations at once. Through the viewing port, they could see more ships continuing to arrive. But these weren't arranged in any formation they recognized. Instead, they moved with organic fluidity, like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each individual unit responding to the whole in perfect harmony. They're using swarm coordination, Vrex realized with growing horror. But not biological swarm coordination. Something else. Something that connects their ships without making them dependent on biological unity. "My instruments are detecting crystalline resonance patterns," Threnza reported, her voice barely above a whisper. "But the frequency is modulated in ways that should create destructive interference. Instead, it's amplifying their power output exponentially." The human fleet had arrived without warning, without fanfare, and without any of the traditional displays of military might that characterized gatherings of the galactic powers. They simply appeared, took position around Nexus Prime, and waited. Admiral Chen's voice came through the station's communication system, clear and professionally courteous. "Nexus Prime Traffic Control, this is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We're responding to reports of military tensions in this sector. Request permission to provide security assistance." The 5 alien commanders looked at each other with dawning comprehension. The humans weren't here to threaten or intimidate. They were offering protection. Zektar activated the emergency channel to his flagship. "Status report on the Crimson Devastator. Sir, we're reading massive power signatures throughout the human fleet. Our weapons targeting systems can't establish locks. The enemy vessels appear to be using some form of phase-shifting technology that makes them partially immune to conventional weapons. What about our Nova cannons?" A pause. "Sir, preliminary analysis suggests that their energy absorption systems could actually use our weapons fire to enhance their own power output. Recommend against engagement." Similar reports came from all 5 fleets. The human vessels weren't just defending against their weapons, they were prepared to turn those weapons into advantages. Threnza's data connection to the Eternal Shard provided equally disturbing information. "My ship's crystalline matrix is detecting harmonic resonance from the human fleet. They're not just using our technology, they're using it better than we are." The viewing port continued to fill with human ships, each one a unique fusion of technologies that should have been incompatible. Some vessels appeared to be grown rather than built, their organic curves housing mechanical systems that adapted and evolved in real time. Others displayed the clean lines of pure engineering, but their metal hulls flowed like liquid while maintaining perfect structural integrity. And throughout the fleet, energy patterns danced between ships in complex webs that suggested a level of coordination that surpassed even the Hive Confederation's biological networking. "How is this possible?" Corvin demanded. "Our civilizations have spent millennia perfecting these technologies. How could they achieve such integration in mere decades?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The cantina's servers, simple mechanical constructs designed for carrying drinks and clearing tables, suddenly spoke in perfect unison with Admiral Chen's voice. "Because you were each perfecting one approach while we were learning from all of them." Every mechanical device in the cantina, servers, environmental controls, even the commander's own augmented systems, had somehow been accessed by the human network. "We didn't have the luxury of millennia to develop our own path," the voices continued. "So we found ways to combine yours. Your crystalline energy storage taught us how to create matter-energy conversion systems that don't require biological integration. Your adaptive metallurgy showed us how to build ships that grow stronger during combat. Your swarm coordination principles helped us develop fleet networking that doesn't depend on genetic unity." Vrex attempted to assert psychic control over the compromised systems, but found his mental probes simply absorbed and redirected. The human integration was too complete, too seamless for his powers to disrupt. "Your psychic techniques taught us how to create mental shielding that turns intrusion attempts into power sources," the mechanical voices explained. "Thank you for the demonstration." The 5 commanders realized they were no longer dealing with the primitive species they had dismissed hours earlier. Humanity had not just joined the galactic community, they had quietly surpassed it. Outside, the human fleet hung in space like a 3-dimensional constellation, each ship unique but part of a greater whole that defied everything the galactic powers thought they knew about warfare, technology, and civilization itself. And in the depths of space beyond the fleet, sensors were detecting something even more disturbing. Construction sites, massive ones. Humanity wasn't just revealing their existing capabilities, they were continuing to build, continuing to adapt, continuing to evolve their approach to space warfare at a pace that made the ancient civilization's centuries-long development cycles seem glacially slow. The 5 alien commanders sat in stunned silence, finally understanding that their entire framework for understanding galactic power had become obsolete. The question was no longer which of their fleets was strongest. The question was whether any of them were strong enough to matter in the new reality that humanity had quietly created around them. Admiral Chen materialized in the cantina without using the conventional transporters. One moment she wasn't there, the next she stood calmly beside their table as if she had simply stepped through an invisible door. Her 2 companions followed, appearing through what looked like tears in space-time itself. "Gentlemen," she said with the same polite smile, "I hope you don't mind the interruption. We thought you might have questions." Commander Zektar's scales had shifted through the entire spectrum and settled on a color that had no name in Vorthon language, something between fear and awe. "What are you?" he whispered. "We're exactly what we've always been," Admiral Chen replied, taking her seat with the casual confidence of someone who belonged everywhere. "We're just better at it now." Commander Rodriguez activated a new holographic display, but this one didn't show star charts or technical specifications. Instead, it showed time-lapse footage of human development over the past 50 years. The images were both beautiful and terrifying. "When we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we made a discovery that none of your species had," he explained. "We found the remnants of an ancient civilization that had tried exactly what we're doing now." The hologram showed archaeological sites on distant worlds, ruins of incredible complexity that suggested a species that had attempted to combine multiple technological approaches thousands of years ago. "They failed," Commander Nakamura added softly. "Their hybrid technologies became unstable. Their civilization destroyed itself trying to master too many approaches simultaneously. We found their records, their warnings, their mistakes." Admiral Chen leaned forward slightly. "But we also found their successes, the brief periods when their integration worked, and we learned from both." The alien commanders watched in fascination and growing alarm as the human time-lapse showed impossible construction projects. Entire star systems being converted into manufacturing centers, artificial worlds being grown rather than built, fleets that assembled themselves from raw cosmic material. "Your species each chose one path and perfected it over millennia," Admiral Chen continued. "Admirable, effective, but ultimately limiting. You became so specialized that you stopped seeing other possibilities." Fleet Marshal Corvin's cybernetic systems were recording everything, analyzing each word and gesture for tactical intelligence. "The logs show cooperation between our species, trade agreements, technology exchanges. You were sharing your knowledge with all of us." "We were," Commander Rodriguez confirmed. "Every trade negotiation was a learning opportunity. Every diplomatic meeting let us study your approaches. Every joint scientific project taught us something new about integration possibilities." The implications were staggering. For 50 years, humanity had been positioned as the junior partner in galactic civilization, the naive newcomers who needed guidance and protection. Meanwhile, They had been systematically studying and improving upon technologies that had taken other species millennia to develop. Grand Admiral Sexth's swarm creatures had emerged from their defensive positions and were skittering excitedly across her carapace. The biological integration you've achieved should be impossible without generations of genetic modification. It would be, Admiral Chen agreed, if we were trying to change our biology to match your approach. Instead, we created technology that interfaces with biology as it exists. Your swarms work because every individual shares genetic programming. Our networks work because every individual chooses to participate. She gestured, and the holographic display showed human ships coordinating their movements with perfect precision. But unlike the mechanical uniformity of the Hive Confederation, each vessel maintained its unique characteristics while contributing to the whole. Choice versus programming, Commander Nakamura explained. Free will versus genetic imperative. It turns out that voluntary cooperation is more flexible than biological compulsion. Lord Commander Vrex had been silent throughout the exchange, his psychic powers probing carefully at the edges of human thoughts. What he found disturbed him more than any military threat. Your minds, he projected hesitantly. They're not chaotic anymore. But they're not unified either. How are you maintaining such perfect coordination without mental integration? Because we learned from you too, Admiral Chen replied, responding to his mental communication with spoken words that somehow carried the exact emotional resonance of his telepathic projection. Your psychic networks showed us how thoughts could be shared without overwhelming individual identity. We just found a way to do it with technology instead of biology. The human ships outside Nexus Prime demonstrated this principle in real time. Each vessel moved independently, making tactical decisions based on local conditions. Yet their combined movements created patterns of impossible complexity and beauty, like a three-dimensional dance performed by entities that understood each other perfectly without surrendering their individuality. Admiral Threnxa's crystalline form was resonating with harmonics that spoke of deep contemplation. The energy signatures we're detecting from your fleet, they're not just using our principles, they're exceeding our theoretical maximums. Your crystalline matrices taught us that matter and energy are just different states of the same fundamental force, Commander Rodriguez explained, but you were still thinking in terms of conversion ratios and efficiency percentages. We stopped thinking about limits and started thinking about possibilities. The holographic display shifted to show technical readouts that made the alien commander's instruments scream impossible readings. Human ships were generating more energy than they consumed, creating matter from pure thought, and manipulating space-time as casually as they might adjust environmental controls. Your metallurgy showed us that materials could adapt and improve, Admiral Chen continued, addressing Corvin directly. Your psychic techniques demonstrated that consciousness could affect reality. Your biological networks proved that individual units could achieve perfect coordination. Your energy manipulation revealed that the fundamental forces of the universe were more flexible than anyone imagined. Commander Zektar found his voice again, though it carried a tremor he couldn't suppress. You're saying you combined all our greatest achievements and improved upon them. We're saying we learned from the best teachers in the galaxy, Admiral Chen replied diplomatically. Each of your civilizations showed us pieces of a larger puzzle. We just put them together. The massive viewing port showed more human vessels continuing to arrive, but these weren't coming from normal hyperspace jumps. Some appeared to be stepping through dimensional barriers. Others seemed to be folding space around themselves, making vast distances irrelevant. A few simply materialized as if they had been assembled from cosmic background radiation. "How many ships do you have?" Sect demanded. "All of them," Commander Nakamura answered simply. The alien commanders exchanged glances, trying to process what that could possibly mean. Your question assumes that our ships exist as discrete individual units, Admiral Chen explained gently. That's a limitation we learn to overcome. When you can build vessels that grow, adapt, merge, split, and reconstruct themselves as needed, the concept of counting becomes fluid. Outside the viewing port, they watched two human ships approach each other. Instead of docking or forming up in formation, they simply merged, becoming a single larger vessel with capabilities that somehow exceeded the sum of its parts. Moments later, that combined ship divided into three smaller vessels, each one perfectly suited for whatever task it was undertaking. Fleet Marshal Corvin's mechanical mind struggled to categorize what he was seeing. Your fleet is a single entity that can manifest as multiple ships when needed? Sometimes, Commander Rodriguez agreed. Other times, each ship is fully independent. It depends on the situation. Flexibility is more valuable than consistency. The 5 alien commanders realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Not just a new military force, but an entirely new approach to existence itself. Humanity hadn't just learned their technologies. They had transcended the philosophical limitations that had shaped those technologies in the first place. What do you want from us? Vrex projected, his mental voice carefully controlled but carrying undertones of resignation. Want from you? Admiral Chen seemed genuinely surprised by the question. Nothing. We want to share with you. She stood and gestured toward the viewing port, where the impossible human fleet hung in space like a living constellation. For 50 years, you've been our teachers. Now we'd like to return the favor. The holographic display shifted one final time, showing star charts that spanned the entire galaxy. But these weren't territorial boundaries or military deployments. They were educational networks, research stations, collaborative facilities where humans and alien scientists worked together on projects that none of them could have imagined alone. Your civilizations achieved incredible things by focusing on single approaches, Admiral Chen continued. Imagine what you could achieve if you combined your specialties with ours, not replacing your methods, but enhancing them. Commander Nakamura activated additional displays showing preliminary research results. Vorthon weapons systems enhanced with crystalline energy storage. Hegemony matter converters guided by psychic precision. Syndicate adaptive systems coordinated through biological networks. Each combination offered capabilities that exceeded what any single approach could achieve. You're offering to share your technological advantages? Thrensa asked, her harmonics betraying amazement. We're offering partnership, Admiral Chen corrected. Your expertise combined with our integration techniques, your wisdom combined with our adaptability, your experience combined with our innovation. The alien commanders sat in stunned silence, trying to process a paradigm shift that challenged everything they understood about galactic politics. For millennia, advanced civilizations had guarded their technological secrets jealously, using them to maintain balance through mutually assured destruction. Humanity was offering to share openly, to collaborate rather than compete. Why? Zektar asked finally. You could dominate the galaxy with what you've achieved. Why offer partnership instead of demanding submission? Admiral Chen's smile carried genuine warmth for the first time since they had met. Because that's the one thing we couldn't learn from studying your civilizations. We had to figure out cooperation on our own. She gestured toward her companions, then toward the viewing port where human and alien vessels were beginning to establish communication links. Every species in the galaxy learned to survive by becoming the strongest in their particular niche. You became the best at what you did by competing with everyone else, but humanity survived by learning to work together despite our differences. We brought that same approach to galactic civilization. The 5 commanders looked out at the human fleet, seeing it now not as a threat, but as an invitation. ships that represented the combined knowledge of 6 different civilizations, working in harmony instead of opposition. Outside, the first joint exercises had already begun. Human vessels were sharing their adaptation techniques with syndicate engineers. Hegemony scientists were exploring dimensional folding possibilities with human theorists. Confederation swarm coordinators were marveling at voluntary cooperation networks that preserved individual identity while achieving perfect unity of purpose. "The galaxy is large enough for all of us to grow," Admiral Chen said softly. "Strong enough to support civilizations that help each other reach heights none of us could achieve alone." Lord Commander Vrex stood slowly, his psychic emanations carrying something the others had never felt from him before. Hope. "When do we begin?" he projected. Admiral Chen's smile grew wider. "We already have." The viewing port showed the impossible sight of 5 ancient civilizations and 1 young species beginning to work together, their combined technologies creating possibilities that none of them had dreamed alone. In the depths of space, construction projects that would have taken millennia for any single species were beginning to take shape in mere months. The age of isolated specialization was ending. The age of collaborative transcendence had begun. And humanity, the species that had learned by watching and listening and adapting, was teaching the galaxy its greatest lesson of all, that the strongest foundation for any civilization wasn't the perfection of individual power, but the wisdom to grow stronger together. The 5 alien commanders who had begun the day boasting about their separate strengths were ending it by planning joint ventures that would reshape the galaxy itself. And in the quiet spaces between their conversations, they were beginning to understand that Admiral Chen had been right from the very beginning. They had indeed been humanity's teachers. But the students had become something more than anyone had imagined possible.